Hello friends, welcome to the Urban Monk Nest channel. Today's video is about the current situation and ongoing chaos in Iran. Let's get into it. This is Iran today, a nation on fire. Its ruler, who has ruled for more than 36 years, is dead. Its streets, once alive with protest, are now scarred by a brutal crackdown, and foreign warplanes streak across its skies, locked in a widening conflict that has put the entire world on edge. This is a perfect storm of chaos, but it didn't happen overnight. This wasn't some sudden implosion. It was a slow burn that finally met a lit match. So, how did we get here? To understand how Iran was pushed to the brink and then shoved right over the edge, you have to look at three distinct forces that all came together at the worst possible moment. A collapsing economy, a people pushed too far, and a conflict that left no room to back down. This is the story of how desperation became an uprising, how that uprising led to a massacre, and how that massacre sparked a world-changing international conflict. For years, Iran has been stuck in what many call a permanent crisis. Decades of international sanctions, combined with systemic corruption and economic mismanagement, had completely hollowed out the nation's finances. The year 2025 was especially brutal. Severe water and electricity shortages crippled daily life, forcing schools and businesses to shut down. Meanwhile, inflation went through the roof, with the price of basic food jumping over 70% in a single year. The purchasing power of ordinary Iranians simply vanished. More than 40% of households fell below the poverty line. For a country sitting on some of the world's largest oil and gas reserves, this was a deep and humiliating failure. The regime's legitimacy, already paper-thin, was eroding with every single price hike. On top of the economic pressure was a string of geopolitical defeats. The regime had spent billions propping up its network of regional proxies, but that influence was crumbling. The fall of the Assad regime in Syria, a key ally, was a massive blow. Its proxies, Hezbollah in Lebanon and Hamas in Gaza, were weakened. This was all compounded by a short but punishing 12-day war with Israel and the United States in June 2025, which damaged Iran's military and nuclear sites, leaving the regime feeling cornered and exposed. The tinderbox was dry, packed with the anger of a population that felt it had nothing left to lose. All it needed was a spark. That spark came on December 28, 2025. On that day, Iran's currency, the rial, collapsed to a historic low, hitting an unbelievable 1.4 million to a single US dollar. For the merchants in Tehran's Grand Bazaar, the historic heart of Iranian commerce, this was the final straw. Pricing their goods became impossible. Their life's work was turning to dust right before their eyes. So, they did something they hadn't done on this scale since the 1979 revolution. They went on strike. Shopkeepers shuttered their stalls and poured into the streets. At first, the chants were about the economy, the worthless money, the soaring prices, the struggle to feed their families. But as more and more people joined, the anger sharpened and turned directly on the regime. The protests spread like wildfire, from the capital to cities and towns across all 31 of Iran's provinces. Soon, this wasn't just about the price of bread anymore. Economic desperation blended with decades of pent-up political rage. Slogans from the 2022 Woman Life Freedom movement reappeared, but new, far more dangerous chants echoed in the streets. Death to the dictator, and Khamenei will be toppled this year. This had become the largest, most widespread uprising against the Islamic Republic since its founding. The regime's response was swift and absolutely merciless. On January 3, 2026, Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei went on television, calling the protesters rioters who needed to be put in their place. It was a declaration of war against his own people. He gave the order for security forces to use live fire against demonstrators. What followed, mostly on the nights of January 8th and 9th, was a massacre. To hide their actions from the world, the authorities shut down the internet, plunging the country into digital darkness. Freed from scrutiny, security forces, led by the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, and its Basiji militia, unleashed a wave of terror. Verified videos and eyewitness accounts showed security forces on rooftops firing into the crowds below, often aiming for the head and chest. They used heavy machine guns and even drones against protesters. Hospitals were completely overwhelmed with people suffering from horrific gunshot wounds. According to human rights groups and internal reports, thousands of people were killed in the crackdown, in what Amnesty International called the deadliest period of repression in decades. The regime then began mass arrests, detaining tens of thousands of people, including children as young as 14. People were dragged from their homes in nighttime raids, from their jobs, and even from their hospital beds. And yet, despite the unimaginable brutality, the protests didn't die out completely. They reignited in late February, fueled by mourning ceremonies for the dead, a cycle of grief and rage that proved the descent was far from over. Understanding the chain of events that leads to a global crisis is more important now than ever. The story of Iran's perfect storm is still unfolding. To keep up with in-depth analysis on this and other critical geopolitical stories, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. As Iran burned from within, the world watched with growing alarm. The United States began amassing naval and air forces in the region, a buildup not seen since the 2003 Iraq War. President Trump declared that regime change would be the best thing that could happen. The stage was set for a dramatic escalation. It arrived on February 28, 2026. In a coordinated, massive operation, the United States and Israel launched a wave of airstrikes against targets all across Iran. This wasn't just a warning shot. It was a decapitation strike aimed at the very heart of the regime. Using B-2 stealth bombers and over 200 fighter jets, they hit military command centers, missile facilities, naval assets, and, most critically, the fortified compound in Tehran where Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei lived. On the morning of March 1st, after initial denials, Iranian state media made a stunning announcement. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, the man who had ruled Iran with an iron fist for over 36 years, was dead. Along with him, a slate of other key military and political leaders were killed, including the head of the IRGC and the defense minister. It was a devastating blow that created a massive power vacuum at the absolute peak of a national crisis. In the streets of Tehran and among the Iranian diaspora in cities like Los Angeles and Toronto, the news was met with both shock and celebration. The man who had ordered the massacres just weeks before was gone, but the chaos was just beginning. The regime, though headless, didn't collapse. As outlined in the Constitution, a three-person transitional council was quickly formed to manage the state until a new supreme leader could be chosen, with figures like Security Chief Ali Larijani reportedly playing a key role. Their first act was to promise revenge, and it came within hours. Iran unleashed a torrent of missile and drone attacks, not just against Israel, but against any nation in the region hosting U.S. military bases. For the first time, missiles struck targets in the UAE, Bahrain, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and Jordan. Civilian sites were hit. A terminal at Dubai's international airport was damaged. An apartment building was struck in Bahrain. Iran was sending a bloody message. If we burn, the entire region will burn with us. The world's economy felt the impact immediately. Major shipping firms suspended all vessel crossings in the vital Strait of Hormuz. The US and Israel continued their strikes, pounding targets in Tehran for a second day. The United Kingdom deployed jets for defensive operations, while Russia and China condemned the strikes, calling for a truce. On March the 2nd, the conflict widened further as Iran's proxy, Hezbollah, began launching rockets into Israel from Lebanon, triggering retaliatory Israeli strikes. The perfect storm that started in the markets of Tehran had now engulfed the entire Middle East. Today, Iran is a nation in limbo. It is led by a fragile interim council trying to project strength while navigating a catastrophic leadership vacuum. The protest movement, though brutally suppressed, remains a deep, unresolved source of instability, and the country is now locked in a direct, multi-front war with two of the world's most powerful militaries and its regional rivals. The future is dangerously uncertain. The transitional government has the monumental task of selecting a new supreme leader while fighting a war and trying to contain a furious population. The opposition, both at home and abroad, remains fragmented, without the unified leadership needed to offer a clear alternative. And the international conflict is at risk of spiraling into an even wider war, with devastating consequences for the global economy and regional stability. The story of the perfect storm that ignited Iran is a stark lesson in how economic desperation, Political repression and international conflict can merge into a crisis with no clear way out. A collapsing currency became a protest, that protest became a massacre, and that massacre became the justification for a war that now threatens to redraw the map of the Middle East. Please like this video, share it with your friends and family, and do not forget to subscribe to the Urban Monk Nest channel and press the bell icon. See you in the next video. Till then, take care of yourself. Bye-bye.